Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is the 2026 NFL Draft Prospect Show, where we get to talk about some of the great players that we believe will be coming out as juniors, or obviously the seniors that will be making themselves eligible for the NFL Draft coming up in May of 2026. Along to talk with me is Joey Clinkscales, former general manager, personnel director, lead scout, multiple NFL teams. He's also a former player, and also Brian LeBel, our NFL and NCAA analyst. Today, we're going to talk about two guys that they're big, they're heavy, they're not the fastest guys in the world, but you'd certainly want both of them in your lineup if you were a college and hopefully an NFL organization. Gentlemen, we're going to start with Kayden McDonald out of Ohio State, and then we're going to talk about Olaivavega Ioane, a guard out of Penn State. But let's start with Kayden first. Joey's a big guy, 6'3", 326. He's out of North Gwinnett High School, just down the street from where Brian is. And he ran a 5.1540, which doesn't impress anybody. But when you're that big, 326 pounds, and he might be a hair over that after Thanksgiving and after a couple of days of not having to go out and run sprints in 80 or 90 degree temperatures. But Joey, there's a lot of things that stick out in his ability, his speed, his quickness, his immovability, and how hard it is for others to move him, even if he's being double teamed, and allowing linebackers to scrape off and make plays.
Well, I really like this guy a lot. And the reason why I say that is he's and a lot of our older viewers might remember this guy, a guy named Chris Jenkins. He was a first round pick by the Carolina Panthers. We had him with the Jets for a little while in free agency. But this guy, for a big guy, he's pretty athletic. Chris was probably a little more athletic, but he's a pretty good athlete. Now, when I say athlete, I'm not talking about running from hash mark to hash mark. I'm talking about in between the box where we're talking tight end, the tackle box. We're talking through there. That's where you see the athleticism in this player. He's got power in his upper body and his lower body because he faces a lot of double teams, and he's able to anchor versus that double team. Sometimes he has 4 hands on him, which means double. Sometimes he has 6 hands on him when he comes off. So he's a powerful player. You are excited about his initial quickness. He comes off the ball. He plays in a rotation there. So we're not talking about a guy that's going to play 60, 70 plays a game, because in today's football, you're not going to ask a 330-pound guy to do that for a multitude of reasons. Also, you have guys that they've recruited behind them that, guess what? If I'm not playing, I'm hitting the portal. So everybody's getting an opportunity to play in today's football, especially at Ohio State, where if you do your job and you blow the team out early, everybody's going to eat later because guess what? The game's already out of hand. But that being said, we're talking about a guy who has strength, power, who can affect the passer, who can reset the line of scrimmage just with his power. And again, I like his initial quickness. I like his hand use, although he doesn't have pass rush moves per se like a defensive end, because this guy is strictly a nose tackle and 3 technique player. But he is a handful, and he wins the majority of the time versus one-on-one. There are rarely times when you see this guy not being double teamed because of the impact he has on the game. I love his awareness at times. I love his ability. Again, I talk about in that tight end and tackle box. You'll see him get off a block, run to a spot, and if that running back's cutting upfield, you'll see him in on the tackle. So we're not talking about a big lazy guy here. We're talking about a big, powerful guy that plays fairly hard, that uses his hands. He's really strong. He can lock guys out and shed the blocker. He does a lot of really good things. But again, for a guy his size, I like his body control. I like his toughness. And again, he's a 3 technique nose tackle, which is over the center, or 3 technique player that again, he gets a lot out of his ability.
Yeah. 57
and if you read his bio, which I briefly did, it sounds like he's an academic All-American too. So that tells you a lot about this kid, about what he's about, his football acumen. So he's just not a big guy in the middle. I mean, he's a big, strong guy that really understands the game of football.
Yeah, 57 tackles, 3 sacks, Brian. Maybe those numbers. 57 is a pretty good number if you ask me for a sparingly situational type guy, goal line, short yardage. Obviously, he's going to be on the field for those, but he's not going to be on the field every first, second, and third down. He's just not. He's not built for that. But what are some of the strengths that you see in Kayden?
He's a space eater. He's immovable. You cannot get him out of his spot. He's got tremendous lower body strength, and he's able to anchor. He's got that massive frame, and when you're able to do that, it's a recipe for disaster if you're on the offensive side. And he's going up against Big Ten offensive linemen, right? He's going up against road graders from Wisconsin and from Iowa and from Michigan, and guys that are NFL caliber type offensive linemen that are able to adapt and play really, really well at the next level. And he dominates, and he's done it all year. And he's one of the unsung heroes on this defense, because I know we've already talked about 2 other guys in Ohio State's front 7. They have tremendous linebackers that are able to scrape and do whatever, and they're able to fill gaps and make tackles for loss. But Kayden plays a big part of that as well, because he does his job. He fills his gap. Everything that he's asked on this defense. And I know that, the rotation, I think he's a bigger guy. And like Joey said, they're bringing more guys in and they're trying to move him around. I think he's going to add a little bit to his pass rush repertoire once he gets to the next level. I think once that happens, and if he gets some confidence getting after the quarterback, and if he's disruptive up the middle, I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think he's fast for his size and his weight, and, very strong hands and upper body too. Once he gets his hands on you, it's almost impossible to move him off his spot.
Joey, I'm going to ask you kind of a hypothetical. Does he stay at 330, or does he become a Sam Adams type player, or Will Wolfork guy that gets just as big as you can possibly get and stay on the team because your one purpose is to slow things down on 4th down or on goal line? I think he's athletic enough to be able to play a little bit more if he actually drops a few pounds to be able to stay in the lineup on 1st, 2nd, 3rd down. What are your thoughts?
Well, I really did, think that his weight is it determines how well he moves inside. If it becomes an impediment for him to move quickly and get off the ball, they're going to ask him to lose weight.
Sure.
But the player you see on tape, you see the first step quickness. So you see some of that. So I'm not sure they're going to ask him to come in and lose weight. What they'll do is get him in better condition. And what I mean by that is they'll shrink his body fat. So by shrinking his body fat, you can shrink body fat and not necessarily lose weight. So I think his body will change. They'll ask him to change his diet, to do X, Y, Z. And he still may be a 330 guy. And guess what? Maybe even quicker than he is now. But I just think once you become a professional, and with the nutrition that you have today that you have available to you, that he will decrease the body fat, improve the strength, and have a chance to become an even better player than he is today.
Well, you mentioned a very interesting aspect of that. If you've already got the quickness and you're at 330, 338, or 328, doesn't matter. Whatever you are, and you already have quickness and you learn to develop that and get a second move, or just work on a rip technique, or develop your own jumpy gathers, had his own move, the forklift. If he learns how to play the game at the highest level with that weight behind him and the strength and the speed, sky's the limit. What are some of the detriments, Brian? What are some of the things that scouts and maybe guys like Joey in the general manager's office are going, it's close. It's between him and 2 other guys. He's up. What is he ranked? He's number 11 for his position right now. We could probably wait and get the guy who's number 15 in the 4th round and not have to pay him as much. But what are some of the weaknesses, and how does he overcome that in between the playoff, the off season that he has, the training, so that he can show folks, no, I've got everything it takes?
I don't know if it's really a weakness, but he's a true nose tackle. That's what his role is, right? He's a traditional nose tackle. I think a lot of these teams are kind of looking for more versatility. I know some of the other guys we talked about, the pass rushing guys, they can play with their hand in the dirt, they can play on the outside, they can stand up, they can drop back in coverage. But I think more so it's just he's very honed in on what he does very, very well. He's very specifically a nose tackle, and he does it really, really well. And I know they've kind of put him as like a defensive tackle prospect wherever they got him ranked. I think where I was looking, they had him at like number 11 overall. But a lot of people think he's the best nose tackle in the draft, and he could very well end up sneaking maybe into the back end of the 1st round. I think the latest you'll see him go is the 2nd round. But I I just think it's the versatility aspect, but I think he's good enough at what he does. And it's very clear. You can turn on the tape, and what he does it very, very well. And it's very, very specific. And teams know what he's doing. They still haven't been able to stop him, but he's that traditional space eater that allows the other 10 guys on defense to be able to move a little bit quicker and to get to their spot. And he's a guy on defense you'd love to have in front of you because he makes your job easier.
I would say that this guy does not slip past like 22, 23 in the first round. These kind of guys are really hard to find, especially for teams that want to be run defenders, that want to stop the run. The Eagles, the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Jets, who just lost their big man. These kind of guys right here, they don't get out of the first round because he's got a unique skill set of power and strength. And, it's an old saying. So we used to say, I had a director, Dick Haley, rest his soul, who was a Hall of Fame GM and evaluator from he was the architect of all the Steeler teams, the 4 Super Bowl teams, and he was one of my mentors. And one thing he used to say about guys in the second round, the guys in the second round, they have a lot of similar traits to those guys in the first round. A lot of them are first round caliber players, okay? But something's missing, and that's what you have to figure out. What's missing in some of these guys, especially in the second round guys, because those are the guys that you have a chance of missing on because you didn't research those guys clearly enough because they have first round talent, and you're mesmerized by all the glitter that you see, and you're wondering why this guy's still sitting here. Well, there's a reason why he's sitting there, and it's not talent based, so it's always something else. But this kid right here, unless there's a character issue, I don't see this guy slipping out of the first round because he's got 2 or 3 traits that are unique for his position that, the Eagles would, the Eagles would salivate if he's sitting there at 32. Yeah. If they're drafting last, which they won't be this year, but if they're drafting last, they would salivate over this guy. Joey, and everybody be saying how he made a steal again.
Joey, am I wrong if I said, at 6'5", 290, the college landscape is loaded with those kind of guys that might have a little more speed, but a guy who's 6'3" with his strength, with his first step power, and he's at 332, 335, there's just not a lot of them, and I see the value there. Cleveland went with the Michigan nose tackle last year. They picked him in the first round because they wanted to shore up their defense. There's others that you mentioned, Joey, which confirms exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so I would even take the speed factor out of this because there have always been I shouldn't say always, but there's been a sentiment at the NFL combines that big guys, defensive tackles and offensive tackle, they want that there has been a sentiment to only let those guys run a 20 and not a 40.
Okay,
because you're never going to see this big guy running 40 yards. So you don't really care what this guy runs a 40 in. So to say 515, but his get off, those first 20 yards to be able to stop in the drills they do and go laterally, he can do that in spades, and that's the most important thing. So while we see 515, that in the game, if he's running 40 yards, there's been a catastrophic
touchdown. There's a touchdown one way or the other.
He's chasing a running back or receiver from behind,
or he's intercepted a bouncing pass that's been whatever. Now he's going to try to take it to the house. I get it. And I think you're exactly right. How does he compare to a wide receiver that his first 3 steps, who has to put 200 pounds on his back just to equalize how much he weighs naturally? It's a very interesting phenomenon, and obviously we wish him well. Second player we're going to look at is from Penn State University. Got a lot of issues there at Penn State. He's a junior, so he's going to come out a little bit early. But Olaivavega Ioane. He's a guy that, another academic guy, pretty smart, especially in high school. He's 6'4", about 325 pounds. Brian, we'll start with you since we started with Joey initially with McDonald, but as a guard, and usually guards don't always go in the first round, but when you're this good with your feet and the way that you set and your ability to be an earth mover, they call him Vega. We'll just call him Vega as well. Vega can play now, and tell us why he impresses you.
He's built like a tackle. If you look at him realistically, he's built like a tackle. He pass blocks like a tackle. He's given up last year. He gave up 1 sack I think it was on 16 pressures. And this year he improved. He's only given up 1 pressure all year.
As a
No
sophomore,
sacks.
he's playing as a sophomore now. This is an interesting in a Big Ten lineup. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he's been fantastic. He's got tremendous size. And honestly, the one knock I have on him is his run blocking. Finishing run blocking needs to be a little bit better, but everything else is very, very good. He's got a massive frame. He moves very, very well in unison with everybody else on the interior offensive line. He's got big hands. He's got very strong arms. He's another guy. If he gets his hands on you, it's going to be very, very difficult to make a play. He's not the most athletic guy, given his size, obviously, but he shows feats of athleticism as well. I think there was a play where they put him out wide, where they sent him in motion. He was the lead blocker, but it was a tough year for Penn State this year, so obviously not as much showcasing. But, this kid's got a ton of talent. He's got a great size. He's got a great frame. I think he can play, anywhere but center on the offensive line. But just as a guard, he's thrived, and he's been really one of the true bright spots for this Penn State roster over the last couple seasons.
Well, Joey, we've said a lot of really good things about him. I'm sure there's more that Brian may have missed. I just want to say he's the number 9 lineman, and that includes the tackles. Obviously, those are the ones that, I look at it this way. If the most important person on the field is the quarterback, then the second most important person is probably the guy that gets the quarterback. And the third is the guy that stops the second guy from getting the first guy. There's some variation in that, but your ability to be able to be a pass protector at the NFL level, you can go very high and make a lot of money, can't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this guy, I like from the standpoint of he's an old school offensive lineman. He's that guard. He's played both left and right guard. I don't see him in any other position. He's not athletic enough to be a tackle. Now, the thing about him is he plays with good technique, and that's what gets him by. He's got really good technique. He's not the quickest guy. He doesn't have really twitchy feet. He does get off on the ball pretty good. He's got good first step quickness. He's got a good second step anchor when guys come at him. Not great hand use, but from a technical standpoint, guys get into him. He's strong enough to be able to move those guys and turn those guys where he wants them to go. He will get a lot high at times, but the thing I like about him, again, is his angles. He plays with good angles, especially on cutoffs down the field. You'll see him pull. Now, as long as he's on that train track, he's okay. If that guy moves, then he's not going to get him because he's not that kind of athlete. But then if he turns upfield, he's heavy. He's heavy-handed. He's got slower feet. But from a standpoint of his technique and his footwork are pretty good. So his hands and his feet are in sync a lot, which is good. So you're not going to see a big punch at him like you see tackles. Guys come into him, and he's able to get that second and third step down where he can anchor, drop his ass, drop his hips, and control a guy. I like the fact that he plays smart. Now, that being said, I do have a note in my notes is I wonder how smart he is. How well does he process things? Because sometimes things will come at him inside, and I can almost see him thinking about it. So it's not necessarily second nature when that twist happened. Now, he'll get the guy because he's strong enough to recover with his strength. But it's almost like every now and again it'll surprise him. And that's something that probably needs to have a lot more reps because he is a smart guy. But sometimes the football smarts and I always say the toughest position to play on the offensive line is really the interior guys. It's the center and the guards. And he's played both guards because the game is so much quicker for those guys with twists and stunts. And you see him reach block. You see him scoop. You see him do all those things at a pretty high level from a knowledge standpoint. It's just sometimes the twists happen. It's like he's a half count slow, and he's trying to catch up with his feet.
And there's not a lot of room for error when you've got 300.
Not only is that you have more room for error when you play tackle than you do when you play guard.
Yeah.
Okay. But all that being said, I do think this guy is a high pick, if not first round, certainly second round, because I think he's big, he's tough, and you'll see him finish a guy go down. Not only would he knock him down, he'll jump on him, he'll finish him off. So that's the kind of fervor and intensity you want to see in your offensive lineman. So I like a lot of things about this guy. And again, he's a big guy. He's just not he's not a tackle athlete, but he's strictly a guard. And that's the thing that you would like to see. when you're drafting a player, especially an offensive lineman, if he's not a tackle, you would like some position flexibility. And what I mean by that is not necessarily playing left guard or right guard, but his ability to play guard and tackle. Or guard and center. And this guy, hopefully, he'll work on some center stuff, because if he's smart enough, the position flexibility will boost his draft stock.
Oh, and his ability to make a team. If he can play any of the three positions on the offensive line. We had a guy, Mike Ruther. He's 6'5", he was about 290, but he could play tight end, either tackle, either guard, or play center, and he's done so.
And when you're building your roster out for the week, we'll go down this dark hole for a minute. So when you're building your roster out for the week, you're going to have 9 offensive linemen up for the game.
Right.
Okay, on your 48 man roster.
They're going to dress. Yeah, they're dressing.
You're going to have 9 offensive linemen up. Okay, so now if somebody gets hurt, it's hard to just have a guard up. You know what I mean? So that's where the position flexibility comes in, because if somebody gets hurt and movement happens, then you have to have a guy that plays, this guy goes from tackle to center, or guys go from center to guard. So that's where the position flexibility comes in. And that's why it's a lot easier to, if it's close and both guys are on the team and both guys are not active, it's a lot easier to bring that guy up who has position flexibility than a one position guy.
Yeah, absolutely. We've thrown a lot at you, Brian. There are some bad things that every player needs work on, right? If he gets jammed a little bit, but he doesn't get beat, there's a difference. But what I'm thinking also is that an NFL caliber coaching staff is going to work on him. And sometimes all it takes is a coach going, if you learn to do this, you're going to be in this league for a long, long time. It's up to you. And some guys, they register that, and it makes them motivate in a different manner. I never talked about that with my Penn State coaches or my high school coaches or other. You're telling me I got a chance? Brian, you fill in the blanks here. Tell me a little bit more about Vega Ioane that we would need to know.
I think what Joey alluded to, it's just kind of his processing speed. When someone's running a stun or they're disguising a blitz or whatever, sometimes he's just a split second slow in being able to identifying and addressing where he needs to be. But other than that, there's not a lot that he does poorly. Joey alluded to it. He's not the most twitchy guy, but he's very deliberate in his steps and how he moves his body. He's not the fastest dude, but he knows where he needs to be. He's got great form, great technique, but
he'll get where he needs to be. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I think that just kind of the processing and a lot of that's just film study, right? It's just, hey, this is what this team likes to do. He might struggle against a Brian Flores coach defense, but then again, everybody does. So it's just one of those things where it's just more film study, and the more reps you get, the better you're going to be.
Well, Brian, you said this before. We've talked about 2 players, one from Penn State, one from Ohio State. And you said in the past, if there's a wide receiver from Ohio State, just take him. I don't care. If he sits on the bench, I don't care, because he's learned and practiced and done things. Over the past 3 or 4 weeks, we've talked about nothing but Buckeyes. What an incredible roster that they have right now. But it's worthwhile, because they may not be the highest rank. And we're going to go over some of those other players from Oregon and from Texas Tech and you name it. We're going to talk about players from all over that are ranked a little bit higher. But, the consistency of the Buckeyes, and now we're looking at the Penn State roster. Granted, they were in the top, were they first or second, third at the beginning of the year? They fell apart. I get it. But still, they weren't ranked that way because they didn't have a lot of quality on the field. They do. And now we're going to get to talk about a few of their players. So last thoughts here before we go, Brian.
There's a lot of talent in the Big Ten right now, so it's going to be a lot of Big Ten guys. And so I think it's been almost nothing but Big Ten guys. That and I think we had David Bailey in there as well. But, yeah, it's just – these are the guys – these are the usual suspects, right, as far as who's going pro and as far as who's impacting the next level. There's some absolute road graders on the offensive defensive side of the ball in the Big Ten, and we showcased 2 of them here tonight.
Yeah, we sure did. And Joe, I want to give you a chance. I asked Brian a little bit. What if a Joe Bugle or that type of guy, or not Joe Gibbs? What was Gibbs, the offensive line coach with the Broncos for all those years? Or it was some of your Steeler offensive linemen, the coaches, that is, get a chance to work with this kid. Your final thoughts here before we go.
Yeah, I think they would like the tackle, and obviously they would like the defensive lineman as well. But these I would like to tell the audience, this is where the game is won. It's great to have the great receivers. It's great to have the great quarterback, and all those things are needed. But real football, especially late season football, the wins are determined by guys like this. the offensive lineman who can reset the line of scrimmage, who can push get yards for the running back, the defensive lineman who can reset the line of scrimmage. So that's where the game is won. You have to be able to run the football, okay, and you have to be able to stop the run. And these are the two guys that will push that cause.
Yep, they'll make it happen. And throughout the remainder of this year, and obviously going into the late winter and early spring, we're going to be talking about the 2026 prospects in a way that you'll know more about them and want to pick them, a few of them for your favorite team. And we'll be doing that as well. So for Joey Clinkscales, for Brian LeBel, thank you for watching the 100 Yards of Football 2026 Draft Prospect Show. We appreciate you being a part of it. We got a chance to look at Kayden McDonald out of Ohio State and Olaivavega Ioane from Penn State. We're just going to call him Vega Ioane until I learn all the multiple syllables a little bit better than I do. But for everybody watching, we appreciate it. We hope you